Now, this is something that's actually been debated quite a lot, just who would win, teen Gojo or current Yuta, which is a pretty interesting debate because they're both in their second years, so naturally people think who would win between the two. And that's what I'm going to be discussing today. The first part of the video is going to be breaking down points for Yuta, the second part is going to be breaking down points for teen Gojo, and my final conclusion. So without further ado, let's get into this. Now, Yuta is an absolute menace and monster. I mean, I don't even think I need to say it. They say he's the second only to Gojo, right? Even in his base alone, he is special grade level, he's strong enough to even scare characters like Naoya, Choso, and even Yuji with his presence alone. And this isn't even getting into the fact that his actual full powered form is absolutely monstrous because now he can summon the full manifestation of Rika, the queen of curses. And now Rika is someone who's actually stronger than him, who has boundless amount of cursed energy. Now, even though he can only use this ability for 5 minutes when Rika is fully manifested though, for these 5 minutes, not only can she help him in the fight, she can also keep replenishing and restoring his cursed energy, which helps him because then he can just keep spamming his reverse curse technique because he doesn't have to worry about cursed energy. And what's even crazier than this is that for these 5 minutes he can also use his curse technique Mimicry. So Yuta's actual curse technique is the ability to copy other curse techniques, Mimicry. Even though he can only use them one by one, it's still pretty amazing how he can use other people's curse techniques, though it's only for the 5 minutes. And what he can also do for these 5 minutes is use the curse tools that Rika has stored in her kind of like jacket or something, whatever it is. And it's many curse tools, so we've only seen him use the gauntlet, so we've only ever seen him use one of these curse tools. He has many of them, and who knows just how many mimicked abilities he's hiding. So yeah, Yuta's kind of crazy. Called the second strongest to Gojo in our current era for a reason. Now, Teen Gojo is no joke. Now, there's actually 3 versions of Teen Gojo we can use, and I'm going to be using all of these versions. The first version is the weakest version, so it's, as people say, it's the pre-awakened Gojo. So this is Gojo before he fights Toji or even during the first Toji fight. So this Gojo only has blue and limitless, and of course he has the 6 eyes, but he doesn't have anything else. Then we have the second version of Gojo, the post-awakened Gojo. Now, this Gojo is pretty monstrous. Not only did he get a massive amp and power up from that first Toji fight, but he also gained the ability of reverse curse technique, and in addition to this, now he has the ability to use red glow, and in addition to this, now he has the ability to use hollow purple, which is one of the strongest abilities we've seen in the entire series. And now, funny enough, even pre-awakened Gojo scales way higher than Toji for many reasons. The only reason Toji even beat that Gojo was because that Gojo didn't have domain expansion, red glow, hollow purple, reverse curse technique, his limitless was weaker, he didn't have teleportation, and so on. And plus, he needed to stab in the back, have some prep against him. I mean, I've talked about this in other videos, so I'm not going to waste any time on it, but pre and post awakening, both versions scale well above Toji, but especially post awakened Gojo. That Gojo scales far above that Toji. And now we also have the third version when Gojo is still in his second year. So this is a Gojo who's drastically improved his limitless, not just in terms of skill, so he can actually decide what's harmless and what isn't harmless, but he's also increased the ability of his limitless. And of course, beside all this, he's also greatly improved his reverse curse technique to the point that it's automatic as well. So it's always on, as well as now his limitless is always on as well. And of course, because he's had quite some time since the Toji fight, this version of Gojo has not only mastered his hollow purple, but he's also shortened the hand signs for red and blue. It seems like this Gojo has already learned his domain expansion, which is something he didn't have post-awakening, but it still isn't refined and needs to be worked on. As he says, his domain needs a lot of working on, but it does seem like he has, at the very least, begun to use domain expansion. So these are the 3 versions of Gojo I will be using in this video. And to just briefly break down his abilities, because his abilities are some of the most complex in the whole series. Basically, Gojo can manipulate not only space-time, but he can also warp reality and also affect universal law, so he can make situations that should be impossible possible. That is just the briefest summary of his abilities. So yeah, he can also affect things on a subatomic level, so needless to say, he's broke. So now I'm going to be explaining Yuta versus the 3 versions of Gojos to see how he fares against them. Yuta is definitely going to beat the first version of Gojo, so this is pre-awakening Gojo. And the reason is this Gojo just doesn't have anything that's lethal enough to kill Yuta or let alone Rika, because his most deadliest technique is the blue, which is not weak, it's very strong, it removes space itself, but I mean, if that's all you have, it's just not going to be lethal enough to kill someone like Yuta, especially not Rika. And I mean, even some databooks state that Rika can't even be exercised, which is absolutely crazy. I think it's fair to say that the first version definitely just goes towards Yuta. So yeah, Yuta takes the first one. Now, what about against the second version of Gojo? So this is post-awakened Gojo during the Toji fight. This is the most interesting one because this is the one that can be debated either way. Now, Gojo, yes, he doesn't have his domain expansion. This is going to be a very big issue because if Yuta uses his, as we know, domain expansions can bypass the limitless. Now, it's pretty interesting because there's a big difference between the manga and the anime. Now, in the manga, when Jogo uses his domain, we see that his sure hit, sure kill can bypass the limitless, but in the anime, it gives us more clarification of what's going on. Now, in the anime, even though the sure hits can bypass the limitless is still active. What it does, rather than completely stop stuff, is it slows it down in time. Now, if you've only read the manga, this is going to come to a shock to you, so I wouldn't be surprised if people didn't know this. But if you actually watch the anime version, the sure hit actually slows down as it approaches Gojo. Now, this is pretty interesting because it makes a lot of sense, because the fundamental abilities of Gojo's Infinity and Six Eyes is that he can control space-time. He can not only warp space, but he can also manipulate time. Even though the sure hits, whatever it could be, can still hit him, it's still going to be slowed down to an extremely slow rate. To such a rate that even in the anime, he just taps it with his finger and it just explodes, because it was just slow enough that he could just casually wait around, look at it, and just tap it slowly. So yes, sure hits can bypass the neutral, where it stops things from hitting him, but it does slow it down in time, to the point that it's a non-issue. However, it could be that Yuta's domain is something that isn't a sure hit, sure kill. He could have a harmless guaranteed hit. If he has this, then Gojo's in for quite a surprise, because whatever his domain is, what we know is at the bare minimum, refined and mastered domains take you up 2 whole tiers, sometimes even more. That's if it's mastered and refined. And Yuta, being the prodigy and also the fastest learner in the entire series, should definitely have a very refined domain. Yuta's domain expansion, if it isn't a sure hit, sure kill, which even if it is, would still be enough to put pressure on Gojo, and he could maybe overwhelm him with it, but especially if it's something that's a harmless sure hit, like Hikaru's domain expansion, or maybe like Higuruma's domain expansion, or even something that's not a sure hit, but something that's just a power amp, so let's say Megumi's incomplete domain expansion. These would drastically favor Yuta, because now, on top of how strong he already is, he's getting a massive power boost. So whatever his domain expansion could be, I've made a whole video on that, where I get into theories of what his domain expansion could be. It could be like 6 or 7 different things. It will boost him in power. It will be help, because remember, this post-awakened Gojo doesn't have a domain expansion. And what helps Yuta a lot is that at the end of the day, this is a 2v1, so it's going to be quite a challenge for Gojo. Now, the benefits that this Gojo has is that he now has obviously reverse cuss technique, so this drastically helps you against opponents, especially opponents who are very strong, like special grade sorcerer level opponents. But most importantly, he has now the hollow purple and the red glow. So of course, the red glow is extremely offensive. It's very, very powerful. That alone is going to help him a lot. But what's even crazy is the hollow purple. Now, the hollow purple is something that should not exist in this universe and actually goes against universal laws. It's something that affects space and time itself. So now it's possible, I know the databook said that Rika can't be exercised, but it's possible that since this affects space-time itself, and it even goes against reality, since something like hollow purple shouldn't exist in the universe, it's possible that if Rika just takes it head on, it could just kill Rika. Now, of course, I don't think Rika's stupid enough to just take it head on. I think she would try to dodge it. Rika is very fast, but it does give now Teen Gojo a new level of lethality that we just haven't seen before. And this could really, really help him against Yuta, since now he actually has the ability to kill Yuta. This fight could go either way. It really sucks that we don't know what Yuta's domain expansion is, so we don't know what that's gonna do. But what we do know is that Yuta just has a 5 limit time limit, which, as I've said in many other videos, is a massive, massive weakness, because if you're fighting strong sorcerers, 5 minutes is not gonna be enough. Personally, I think that Teen Gojo would take this, the post-awakening, but maybe only 55 out of 100 times. So it'd be very even. I still think Yuta would win some of the fights. If you think Yuta wins this, that's completely fair and very understandable. If you think Yuta wins more of these fights. So I have no issues against that, because it's really hard to tell just what Yuta's domain does. Now, I'm recording this actually after I just recorded the video. I kind of just messed up because I double checked. The third version of Gojo that I'm talking about is Gojo in his 3rd year, not Gojo in his 2nd year. So I'm going to be referring to Gojo in his 2nd year at his peak. It's actually Gojo in between his 3rd year. So I'm going to leave it in the video anyway, so it's going to be interesting. It's going to be Yuta versus 3rd year Gojo, which may be a bit unfair since he's a year older, but I still think it's a pretty interesting matchup to be had. So when I refer to Gojo in his 2nd year, just know that this last matchup is actually 3rd year Gojo, not 2nd year Gojo. Now, back to the video. I think this Gojo is going to absolutely donkey slap Yuta. Now, it's not going to be a no diff. I think it'd be a mid diff, so I don't think it's going to be that brutal, but considering now this Gojo has mastered his reverse curse technique to the point it's completely automatic, and remember, Gojo never runs out of cursed energy, so he can keep using reverse curse technique infinitely, but he's also mastered his red and blue to completely new levels. He's perfected the hollow purple. He's even started working on his domain, so maybe his domain isn't as refined, but the fact that he has a domain really helps, because now he can clash with Yuta, and of course his limitless is far stronger too. Yes, this Gojo at this point in his 2nd year is going to beat Yuta, I think. I don't think it's going to be that big of a wash, since Gojo is still developing a lot, but I think he's improved enough. Enough time had passed that just Gojo had grown rapidly. So I think that this version of Gojo in his 2nd year would beat Yuta. Though you could make the argument that maybe his domain isn't refined enough, but it's Gojo Satoru, and considering the fact that he can spam his reverse curse technique infinitely and will never run out of cursed energy, whereas Yuta has the 5 minutes. Even if you want to say that Yuta's stronger for the 5 minutes, he's not going to be able to kill Gojo. Gojo, with his neutral and his reverse curse technique and his own domain and lethality, is just going to be too strong to put down in 5 minutes. And once the 5 minutes are up, what's going to happen to Yuta? He's getting his ass cheeks clapped by Gojo pretty badly. It's going to be like Hashimo with Panda, how he just came inside him really fast and really strong. Literally just blow a hole through him. It's going to be brutal. But that's what I think. Now tell me what you guys think about each and every matchup. I think the first and third matchup should be pretty clear who's going to win, but the most interesting one is the post-awakened Gojo who is fighting Toji. That is a great matchup for Yuta. So let me know actually about any of the scenarios, whether you disagree or agree. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, please do be sure to subscribe. I have a ton of JJK content just like this on the channel. So a lot of versus battles, what ifs, discussion videos, theory videos, the whole bunch. And of course, if you subscribe, you're going to be joining the Higuruma fan club. So please do. But yeah, it was a pretty interesting video. I think it's been done before, like a couple months ago, or maybe even a year ago by other YouTubers. So I'm not the first person in the world to do this. I think it's been done by 5 or 6 people, but no one's done it recently, and I haven't seen other people's takes, so I wanted to throw my opinion into the ring. But yeah, if you've made it this far, you're an absolute legend. Thank you for watching, and have a nice day. Take care, and see you.